Okay, for those of you just joining us, welcome and thank you. Today we're going to be talking about, as we said, those darn DPAs. We're going to be looking at five of the biggest obstacles that we hear when it comes to transactions involving down payment assistance. So yes, there is a little bit of snark there. We love talking about this topic, but we understand there's always a few questions. We want to help identify and address some of the common misperceptions, objections, and perceived obstacles that are incorrectly attributed to DPA programs. The goal of the webinar is to help everybody overcome any apprehension working with down payment assistance programs. So, believe it or not, we are going to be having some fun, maybe ruffle some feathers. So, with that, let's get started. My name's Will Medina from our DPR team. We also have with us today Melinda Harris, our Director of Marketing and Communication, Tracy McIntosh, our Customer Service Manager, and Keith Futrell, our DPA Program Specialist, an all-star team for you all today. They'll be answering questions in the background, so please put those questions in the Zoom Q&A feature to engage with them as we go. We find that it's easier to track those questions there, but we will be keeping our eyes on the chat as well. So today, we're going to start with a brief overview of the state of down payment assistance programs. We're going to dive into the perceptions and misperceptions about DPAs, specifically as mentioned earlier, by looking at the five most common objections, obstacles, that we hear about working with DPAs. We're going to address those head on with feedback from your industry peers. We're talking about real estate agents and loan officers from across the country who themselves do a lot of DPA business and have helped identify best practices to cut through the clutter and clarify timelines. We will also be providing some tools to help you along the way, of course, and include some next steps. But first, a little about us. DPR is a national database and matching engine of all of the more than 2,300 home buyer assistance programs across the country. Our team has decades of experience in residential mortgage finance and real estate. We've been doing this for now 16 years. We integrate into MLS platforms, so many of you with us today might be members of one of those MLS partners. We also offer a suite of tools for mortgage lenders to help operationalize and streamline the use of down payment assistance programs. And we also have a tool called Down Payment Connect for individual agents and loan officers. Agents, if you're a member of one of those MLS partners, as mentioned, you actually have Down Payment Connect for free. If you're not a member, not to worry, we offer a subscription version as well, a great tool. Ultimately, we're here to help you connect home buyers to the down payment help that they need. So as mentioned, I'd like to start off by looking at the current state of home buyer assistance programs. Now, of all the programs out there, 74% are some sort of down payment or closing cost assistance. Of those, 81% have deferred payments, meaning you don't have a monthly payment on the DPA loan for some period of time. 53% are forgivable, either in part or in full, essentially becoming a grant over time. And 50% are both deferred and forgivable. And then there are still other DPAs that are true grants at closing or repayable monthly after closing. We also have another webinar called DPA 101, where we explore this idea of the different DPAs, this example of the different DPAs, I should say, much further, a deep dive into the different program types, such as affordable first mortgages, tax credits, or mortgage credit certificates. The goal of DPA 1 is to show how these programs are alike, how they're different, and what their qualifying criteria are. We always get asked, who funds and administers these down payment assistance programs? Well, there is at least one housing finance agency in every state, local housing finance agencies in certain markets across the country as well. There are city and county governments that often have community or economic development departments or housing authorities. Many employers, like municipal governments, hospitals, and universities, also offer their employees some form of down payment assistance. Local housing authorities, CDFIs, and the Federal Home Loan Bank Network also operate across the country. A number of nonprofits, such as NeighborWorks and Neighborhood Housing Services and others, operate in markets across the country with varying programs. there are community action agencies, land trusts, and many other organizations out there that are all trying to open new doors to homeownership and promote housing growth and responsibility in their market, which is also your market. And they've all got funded and available down payment assistance programs. Now, these programs are everywhere. Talking about what we'll be talking today, there's a common myth, right? Down payment programs are not available in my area. This is not true. Some markets offer more home buyer programs than others, but there's a state housing finance agency in every state, and their programs are available statewide. So there's literally no county or market in the country where there isn't at least some kind of down payment assistance or other form of home buyer assistance. So let's talk current trends, what we're seeing with down payment assistance programs, and then we'll get into rethinking our perceptions in just a moment. We're seeing that demand remains through the roof. DPA providers are increasing assistance amounts, income limits, and purchase price limits to help more home buyers in today's market. Our team has actually been reviewing many programs throughout the span of these last 2 months as HUD updates income limits and so many other changes actually happening at the moment. There are new state and local programs that continue to launch in markets nationwide, and 82% of all DPAs, yes, 82% are funded and available. So these programs are still available and not going away. And in fact, there's increasingly more attention on these programs as a critical stopgap or mitigation method for some of the affordability issues that home buyers are currently facing. So here we have a final breakdown of our Q1 2024 Homeownership Program Index report. It's the most recent HPI report. The Homeownership Program Index report, if you are not familiar with it, is something that we publish quarterly, which offers a snapshot of trends. And over the past few years, it has shown a net increase in the number of programs that are hitting markets across the country. So some of the important highlights, where 40% of programs continue to have no first-time home buyer requirement. Right, regarding different property types that are being accepted, 36% allow the use of manufactured homes, 30% allow multifamily, that's 2 to 4 residential properties, of course, so long as one of those properties is owner occupied, and 26% are statewide, referring to programs, most of them being local. And approximately 400 programs continue to offer extra incentives for military service and various professions. So now let's talk about the guest of honor, down payment assistance. Right, there are some of these, are some of the common things that we hear, especially from the lender perspective, but we'll be talking about lending and real estate both here as we go. What we hear is that down payment assistance programs add costs, that there is no margin, and thus makes them unprofitable to originate, that there is an added layer of post-closing complexity, some risk potential from the lender perspective, of course, let's say getting loans off of the books, sold, and off to a servicer. That training is hard to implement. There are adoption questions that come up. Are loan officers going to originate these DPAs? Of course, will closing timelines be delayed because of the use of down payment assistance? And a very critical one that we hear, will the program run out of money after I start the loan application? In the end, taking all of this into account, what we are essentially hearing from many in real estate and finance is that we love the concept of DPA, but we struggle with the logistics and the economics of these programs. So that's why we're here today, to help combat some of these perceptions. We're here to essentially rethink our approach to and understanding of DPAs. And in fact, we're going to give you millions of reasons to rethink DPAs. But first, I'd like to outline the 5 most common objections or misperceptions we hear about DPAs. We're going to acknowledge and discuss what the issue is, real or perceived. Then we're going to talk through solutions to these issues and or debunk some of them. So first one up, inventory. We understand inventory is tight in most markets. That is real. But there are important things that we can do to help uncover these different inventory options. Confusion, let's say, about down payment requirements. Too many aspiring home buyers still think they need 20% down and are unaware of the low down payment mortgage options or down payment assistance and often give up on the idea of homeownership. We'll certainly look at that issue. We know over the past few years, many sellers or perhaps the listing agents representing them have been apprehensive about accepting contract offers from buyers utilizing DPA. So we're going to talk through that issue and how to address it and deal with that kind of misguided apprehension. Another concern that's been around for many years is the misperception that all DPAs inherently extend, prolong, or delay the home buying transaction. So we'll talk through how that's not often the case and how those misperceptions arise. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, one of the biggest problems out there is the lack of productive and fruitful agent LO partnerships. We'll talk about the challenges we hear from real estate agents and how loan officers can step in and help. So with that, let's dive in with the inventory issue first. So the way we'll set this up is to present the issue and acknowledge and understand it. Then we move on to presenting some solutions. The solutions are what we've heard from your peers, agents and loan officers from around the country who have weighed in. This stuff is not made up for you, sincerely curated from all of your peers. So regarding inventory, right, we're looking at historically low inventory. This is real in just about every market, as mentioned, across the country, and it makes it very difficult for buyers to compete. Days on market are decreasing. Properties are continuing to move at a fast pace. There is enormous demand. So many buyers are competing for the same properties and have been for several years now, potentially be very exhausting for them. We've, of course, mentioned limited supply. Prices are steadier, continue to increase. They aren't going down really anytime soon. Buyers continue to struggle to compete. As mentioned, all of this compounds to create a difficult situation, especially for new buyers who are trying to get approved, get their bids won, and get into a home. So we ask ourselves, what can be done? It is important to consider alternatives to the open market. Agency-owned or municipal-owned properties and land trusts, combined with down payment assistance, can be affordable options for first-time home buyers. Many local housing agencies or municipalities around the country purchase blighted homes and bring them back to market at or below cost, or even develop new properties that are meant to be affordable. And of course, there are homes that need minor repairs that may give buyers the opportunity to compete and to afford a home that they can make their own. And to be clear, we're obviously not referring to a hole in the roof, but those homes that don't get snatched up in the first week or two, maybe that require a little bit of TLC. I know the phrase sweat equity is sometimes used. They can offer a handy or motivated buyer another outlet for inventory. And of course, consideration to get to know agents listing affordable properties, get on their email list to monitor their coming soon offerings. It's important to get out ahead of the competition, which can help open new inventory. Another consideration is manufactured housing, right, as another affordable housing alternative. It's also important to counsel buyers about what the process and competition will look like. Make sure they get pre-approved and of course, take their home buyer education course much earlier in the process. It also helps to partner with a housing counselor to help incubate and prepare new buyers. All of this can help build a bigger, stronger pipeline over a period of time. And of course, using calculated patience, narrow down the buyer's list of must-haves for their new home so you're fully prepared to strike on a contract when the right property hits the market. And it's important to be realistic about those must-haves and discuss those candidly while counseling your buyers. So now let's talk about down payment requirements. According to a study by the Urban Institute in 2018, which still resonates today, 65% of prospective buyers still believe that they need at least between 15 to 20% down to purchase a home. 76% have little to no familiarity with the various low down payment assistance programs. They're also not quite familiar with industry terms, right? The lingo, the guidelines, very overwhelming, which leads to millions of home buyers sidelining themselves. And then, of course, referring back to that first bullet point, the nasty myth of 20% down. Uh, it's important that the marketing content and the activities better educate aspiring home buyers and let them know homeownership is within reach. And most importantly, how, right? How can I make this happen? So it's important what can be done to combat that first thing out the gate, that misperception that 20% down is needed. We have to aggressively debunk the myth, especially amongst first-time homebuyers, as this is not a requirement. So it's important that the marketing that's available educate buyers accordingly from the start. Um, get outside of your bubble. We hear from so many realtors that they get into DPA because one buyer came along who needed help, and that led to a new path in their career and a heartfelt desire to help more buyers. Align yourselves with agents, loan officers, lenders that are working within that DPA lane, so to speak. Tell the stories of how you've helped, right? Share how you've helped others with down payment assistance. It's great content for your social media audience, and it lets tomorrow's buyers know that what you were exactly able to accomplish for yesterday's buyer. Make use of the educational tools that are out there. Of course, our website, downpaymentresource.com, state and local housing finance agency training classes, home buyer education. Take the time to know and offer the tools that are available to home buyers. And just to reference myself as a DPA specialist, there are a lot of programs that are very active in putting out training materials for real estate officers, for lenders, always updating their websites as well. So that information is out there and available. And of course, part of what can be done is just being willing, able to talk about down payment assistance programs, right? Feeling confident about the material, the logistics, and we'll talk more about agent LO partnerships, but loan officers can help you gain comfort with DPAs as well and open up a new path to helping more home buyers. And of course, it must be said, if this is something that is not for you, it is fine not to, burst out of that bubble immediately, to remain in your lane, potentially refer those deals out. But the opportunity is always available to dip your toe in the water and learn about these down payment assistance programs. Now, let's talk about refusing contracts that may have DPA. So one bad experience, of course, can sometimes sour someone's willingness to use DPA again. So it's important to frame down payment assistance appropriately in contract offers. Sellers are obviously looking for certainty, and they may associate down payment assistance with a lack of certainty. And the bottom line is, though, if you're qualified for a mortgage, you're qualified for a mortgage. So DPAs could potentially be framed as, hey, I don't need to ask for closing costs from you because I have my down payment assistance in place. So you'll be getting more out of this transaction. This is could be considered as a value add. And of course, refusals are because sellers may fear delays. And as long as we can educate ourselves and our borrowers on what is needed upfront, there really should be no need to fear delays. If you know, as an example, that homebuyer education is needed prior, get the consumer signed up early and often. Get your pre-qualification completed for your first mortgage and down payment assistance. So acknowledging that there is likely a hesitation regarding DPA with purchase offers is real. However, this can be combated with education of the program itself and, of course, preparation. What can be done? Let's talk about agent LO partnerships. Realtors leverage the experience and expertise of your loan officer partners. They can help set expectations with even the seller and their agent. I can't tell you the amount of conversations that I may have with program providers. I actually recently had one with a loan officer who themselves took so much pride and joy in knowing their program forward and backward and wanting to actually go out and teach new agents about this program. So that is out there. That is real. Leverage the value of a down payment assistance program. Provide assurance that the deal will get done, and of course, done in a timely manner. We also keep hearing from realtors around the country, don't disclose more than you actually have to. Put in the contract what state law requires, But if you don't have to disclose the source of funds for DPA, then it's potentially none of the seller's business, really. Ensure that your consumer is on the same page as you. That is very important. They should understand what is needed upfront so that they are able to be invested in keeping their home purchase on track. And remember, ask a loan officer who does a lot of DPA well. A DPA buyer who is qualified is still a qualified buyer. So there's another huge misconception that DPA extends the transaction. What's the problem here with that is anything can cause a delay, not just down payment assistance. As an example, the cash to close perhaps wasn't fully investigated up front. Something was missed in the documentation. Perhaps the DPA application was started later in the process. Many of the program providers actually spell out exactly how the process should begin. So another great reason to actually review the documents and get familiar with them. Maybe home buyer education was not completed in a timely manner, or perhaps there was miscommunication or a lack of communication amongst the various parties involved in the transaction. So what can be done about this misconception? Well, it's important to build what could be referred to as your DPA IQ, right? Know the programs you're working with. What are the specific timelines? What is the application process? Who needs to be the first point of contact? Is it a counselor? Is it a lender? What are the home buyer educational requirements and so on? And of course, it's important, sticking with home buyer education, to complete that early on. Some are, potentially good for a whole year. It's important to ensure that all other services are ordered in a timely manner. So that involves coordination, right? Teamwork with the title company, the seller, the lender. And agents, of course, work with loan officers who know the DPA, front and back, and are able to close on time. It's often not the DPA that causes any problems with extending the transaction, but of course it is what gets blamed. So just for consideration, let's say the buyer gets qualified, shops for a home, takes a while, finally signs a contract, but the bank statements have expired. You need to update the bank statements. It's identified that there's not enough cash to close. So now everyone says we need a down payment assistance program, right? Something to help fill here, but the transaction gets delayed. In that case, it was not down payment assistance that could be identified as the problem. It could be said it was the insufficient cash to close. In another way, the DPA was actually the solution to that problem, but could have been detected or anticipated earlier and done right. The last issue, of course, is one of the most important, establishing these agent-LO partnerships. The most common question we get from agents, not just on our webinars, but just in general, come in, or how do I find a loan officer that can help with down payment assistance programs? Specifically that meet, let's say, 3 criteria. They offer DPA, they're good at DPA, and that they want agents, DPA in first-time homebuyer business. The problem is many LOs are not meeting this demand. They may not be promoting their expertise out in community. They may not be highlighting their specific program offerings, of course, being active in their community, referencing, going out, talking about some of these expertise that they have. So what can, let's say, real estate agents do? They can talk to current loan officers, ask a broker, ask peers for loan officer referrals, ask program providers who their best LOs are. It's important to educate yourself on DPAs in your market as well. Of course, creating a relationship with partners, loan officers, brokers that offer DPA programs. Speak with your housing finance agency about their relationships with lenders, loan officers, or real estate agents. They know exactly who is offering their programs. Lunch and learns for first-time home buyers. Leverage social media. It's important to try and craft an intake strategy with realtor partners that are working with consumers in need of down payment assistance, and court other agents as well. that list and sell affordable and DPA eligible properties. They themselves may have great loan officer connections and also insights into some of that inventory that we referenced earlier. And then let's talk about loan officers. What could loan officers do better? They can provide their expertise and show that they are DPA subject matter experts. Um, as mentioned, many providers list when trainings are going to occur, how often those trainings have to occur, and even go as far as to put those trainings on their website so that you can go back and revisit for more information. And it's important to incorporate DPA information into your marketing content. Work with the production staff to get the programs you and your agent partners and your home buyers and clients need. Host different activities, boots on the ground in community, lunch and learn, one of those. Of course, leveraging social media and overall creating an intake strategy with agents for new buyers. And it's important that LOs communicate all of this to agents because they need to know that you are the local DPA expert that is ready to step in and help them and their home buyers. So just as a quick recap regarding the top 5 solutions, it's important to explore creative inventory alternatives to combat that nasty myth that we refer to, that 20% down is needed, to leverage the value add of down payment assistance. There are different forms of program, and I'm sure that they apply differently to different transactions, but it's important to leverage that value. Set buyer expectations and prepare them early on in the process. And of course, create innovative partnerships with loan officers and other brokers that are either subject matter experts, or perhaps you are the expert bringing something new to the table to them, right? So very critical. So now we did say up front that we'd give you millions of reasons to reconsider your objections and perhaps apprehensions about down payment assistance programs. Well, here we are. Did you know, in fact, that 33% of all decline loans are salvageable with DPA? Now, this includes loans declined for cash to close, but also for qualifying ratio issues. Now, DPA can't solve credit or employment or property issues, but tons of decline loans could potentially be saved if a DPA were identified to help with cash to close or debt to income. And when a DPA is applied to those decline loans, we find an average of about 6% reduction in loan to value. And additionally, we did some research a couple years ago and found that about 68 million single family homes in the US actually qualify for down payment assistance. That's, we can say is a lot of inventory. And lastly, through more recent research, we found that about 32 million renters are themselves mortgage ready, but again, think that they do not qualify. And why is that? I think we can point to at least one myth here, that 20% down is required, or that perhaps a student loan will kill a deal, right? Unaware of the low options available out there, such as buying with 3 or 5% down. So it's important to recognize that DPA customers become customers for life. So we suggest to tell their story, help them, and they will certainly refer their family members and their friends. In closing, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We are certainly grateful for your attendance today. We are here to help you and your clients find the assistance they need. Questions, inquiries can be sent to info@downpaymentresource.com. Again, we appreciate your attendance. We'll actually be sticking around a few minutes just to answer a few additional questions from the audience. So again, thank you very much.
Hey, Will.
Hi.
Hey, sorry, this is Mel. Hey, Will. No, I just wanted to say, of course, we always have people asking about the slides and the recording. Just so everyone knows, we will be sending out the recording as well as the slides to everyone that registered. So they will be sent to the email that you used to register today. You should have that in your inbox at some point tomorrow. But if you don't receive it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. and we'll get that over to you. But as far as any other questions goes, we've had a ton of really good questions in
Mhm.
chat and in Q&A. I've been answering them. I'll let Keith or Tracy chime in if they've seen any trends or anything like that.
So there is one, I know it's being answered, but in general, it's a common question about having to be a first-time home buyer for assistance. That is not the case. As we mentioned, the breakdown is, we had an example since our last homeownership program index report, approximately 40% are for first-time home buyers. There are programs for repeat home buyers. And of course, there are broader definitions depending on the program provider. But of course, we always like to reference that a first-time home buyer is a first-time home buyer if they have not owned a home in the past or last 3 years. So great question. Definitely appreciate it.
Hey, well, this is Tracy. There's
Hey, Tracy.
a couple of things that I want to point out, and I do see
Okay.
that more questions are flooding in as we're chatting, which is fine. We'll get to all of those as well. But one of the things that I did want to note is that we have had a couple of people ask about, as an agent, if you are a uh, member of one of our MLS partners, you actually have Down Payment Connect for free and available to you right now. I know that I spoke to someone just a little bit ago who has a partnership, and they were just completely unaware that their MLS was one of our member MLS partners. So if you are a member of an MLS and you log on to your MLS, look for down payment resource either under external links. Usually it's under external links that you can find that. If that's on there, then you can click on that. That's going to take you to your own customized Down Payment Connect page that's ready and waiting for you. You can also look at the listings on your MLS that are integrated with us and see if Down Payment Connect is available at that property. This is a great way that you guys can utilize highlighting and advertising for if you have a property that you're marketing and that you're trying to sell that's having a hard time with a push. You could put some information out there about that, which is what I was recommending earlier. Just letting people know that specific property does have down payment assistance available at it, and maybe that can get you some bites that way as well. But not every MLS is partnered up with us, so just keep that in mind. If you don't have an MLS that is partnered with us, you do have Down Payment Connect available to you, but it is an additional cost that you would have to do directly through our website. That's just something that I wanted to make sure and note out because we have had a lot of agents on here asking about that. Another common question that we always get is basically finding lender partners and agent partners. So as an agent, if you have any lenders that you already work with, that is your very first step. Check with them, see if any of your loan officers that you partner up with already work with down payment assistance programs. That way you know that you can refer your incoming buyers to them. And a lot of times, keep in mind, if they're not a customer of ours, they don't have access as a lender to all of our database to be able to maintain and keep up to date with the many, many changes that happen throughout the year. So if you run across a down payment assistance program that they are not aware of, and they're working with a mutual buyer that you're working with, send that information to them and say, hey, FYI, this came up as an option that might be available for this buyer. Is this something you would be willing to take on and to work with? And then in many cases, they might be willing to do so and just weren't aware of that program. So just a couple of things I wanted to throw out there.
Sure, thank you. And to piggyback off of the lender question, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug in our website, downpaymentresource.com, and actually running our free search eligibility tool, which anyone can use to locate a DPA program. So if it's a matter of, well, is anything around me? that's a great resource. Of course, as Tracy mentioned, if you are a member of a partner MLS, certain resources are available to you as well. But that is a great place just to learn about what's in your area. And of course, as mentioned, find the lenders that either you are accustomed to working with, or maybe some references that they themselves do DPA business. But another great resource, of course, is reaching out to the program providers, right? Getting on their email lists or training lists, whatever they offer, because they do offer programs to help train and educate on their certain down payment assistance programs. And whether or not programs have to use certain lenders, some have those requirements. Yes, that's a lot of the information that we actually provide, whether a provider has a specific participating lender list, or if any lender can potentially be used as well. So anything else that the team feels should be addressed, or any other questions?
Yeah, hey, well, it's Mel again. Do
Yeah.
you mind really quick going back to that HPI graphic that shows the breakdown of the DPA programs? Sammer has a question in chat. Is DPA a grant or a loan? Does it have to be paid back or forgiven?
Oh.
So I just thought that graphic would be good.
Absolutely.
To let you know that, Sammer, that is going to vary. There's lots of different types of assistance available, like Will covered earlier. 74% of all of the 2,300 plus programs that we have in our database are down payment and closing cost assistance programs. And as you'll see on this graphic, 81% of them have deferred payments. 53 are forgivable. 50, sorry, I don't have my glasses, are forgivable and deferred. And then there are also grants that do not have to be paid back. You have, second mortgages, you have first, affordable first mortgages, mortgage credit certificates, etc. So I hope that answers your question. I just thought this graphic is helpful, and I will put a link really quick to this graphic comes from our homeownership program index, and I put a link to that in the chat earlier, but I'll do it again. That's a great report. It comes out quarterly, and it provides a lot of information about the different types of programs that that we see across the country. So thanks, Will.
And of course, yeah, no. And of course, as mentioned, if you want to learn, if you want a deeper dive into, right, the different program types, we do host our DPA 101 webinar, which if you actually go through our website, Mel, correct me if I'm wrong, it's educational resources, correct? Or there's a tab there that you can actually register for that webinar. You'd get your alert, your link, and then you can actually join us and learn a little bit more about these programs.
You are correct. And I will also, I'm
Thank you.
typing right now. I'm sorry. I'll also I just posted a link to our education page where you can sign up for upcoming sessions. And then just so everyone knows too, when we send out the recording and the slides, I will include some different resources there as well. So I will include, we have a YouTube channel that has a bunch of different training and resources. We have, I'll make sure to include different links and, our Facebook group, etc. So you guys have a lot of different resources that you can use. And then, of course, we're always here to help to answer questions at, info@downpaymentresource.com. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Mel. I, of course, again, want to thank all of the attendees. We appreciate it. Our team, we enjoy putting these events on for you. As Mel mentioned, this is our contact info, info@downpaymentresource.com. Feel free to go through our website, check it out. A lot of great resources. And of course, tune in for any other future webinars. We love return attendees. We love the feedback. So we appreciate everyone for being with us here today. So I hope everyone has a great afternoon.